Uh, Dear students, welcome to English Literature. Today I want to discuss a very important concept which is crucial for understanding the essays of Tagore today. Of course, when Tagore wrote, this concept as such was not there, but then Tagore is so first cited that in his writings we can already see most of the things that are associated with the concept I am going to discuss now. It is called uh, imagined communities or the nation as an imagined community. The concept was put forward by Benedict Anderson. Please remember, in 1983 in his 1983 book of the same name, uh, Imagined Community. We all over the world are given to understand through different means that nations have been always there from antiquities. These are very natural formations. But actually, if we delve deep into the matter, actually nations are very recent phenomenon, and at least people like Benedict Anderson tells us so. Tell us so. That is more or less the common point is 18th century Europe, which saw the emergence of these so-called nation states. So before the nation states emerged, the identity, locational identity or geographic identity of a person was quite limited to what would be almost equivalent to a district or region today. Though Benedict Anderson's book is on Europe, we see similar things in India also, notwithstanding the fact that a cultural imagination of greater India was always there. But as a part of day to day identity or as part of, say, common discourse, mostly people used to identify themselves by districts, what would be akin to districts. So, even till today, say, if we look at the case of Bengal, the traditional arranged marriages happen between persons of the so-called same districts, as Sylhet district, Chittagong district, etc. Going slightly backward in time, the medieval text Chaitanya Dev's biographies, Chaitanya Bhagavat and especially Chaitanya Charitamrita, identify people as uh, Gaudiya, uh, Oriya, Bongo Deshiya. Bongo and Gaur are not the same, though today they are same. Bongo used to refer to East, what we call East Bengal or Bangladesh today. Gaur is the west part. So like that, slightly more than. Yes, concept of Bharat was there. But this is as a holy land, cultural land, etc. Anyway, I will come to Benedict Anderson right now. Benedict Anderson locates the emergence of nations slightly earlier with the emergence of print capitalism in Europe, about which all of you have read in 101 paper. I mean about the emergence, that is Caxton's press and other things. This presses to maximize their selling, Anderson tells us, gradually or rather quickly shifted from the scriptural tongues, that is Latin, for instance, like our Sanskrit. They shifted from scriptural tongue and started publishing in the local dialects, at least the predominant local dialect, East Midland dialect for England. In Bengal, the same thing happened after missionaries came or in Assam. So gradually, this. Anyway, go back to Europe. So Benedict Anderson argues that this kind of publication actually forced a common brotherhood, a common feeling across a group of people who was speaking or more or less communicating in the same or almost the same language. So it has a linguistic origin, modern nationalism, according to Benedict. That may not be forgotten. And this continued till recent times also. We know after India was divided along religious lines, Even after that, people of East Bengal separated themselves from Pakistan. Then East Bengal was called East Pakistan because they found that in spite of the religious similarity, linguistically, they were more aligned to Urdu. Bangla than Urdu, which was the language of Pakistan. So the revolt happened, India cooperated, and that is how Bangladesh emerged. Anyway, but language is not the only factor, religion and other things are there, just as I have referred to Pakistan's case, which in a way is a counter text to Benedict Anderson, because Benedict Anderson has said in that book that religious nations are a thing of the past. But it may not be so. Anyway, so imagine, committee, just imagine, say, take the case of Pakistan, for example. Around 16, 17 crore people would be there. I exactly don't know how much. But even 1 lakh, a single person in his lifetime may not meet even 1 lakh Pakistanis. But still, he or she believes or imagines that all Pakistanis are his, brother, friends, they belong to the same nation, etc. So that is where the question of imagination comes. It is not objectively, it cannot be proved objectively that nationalism or biologically, say blood group, we have 4 or 8 blood group, positive, negative included, so that can be proved. Even language can be proved. But nations, at least today, is very difficult to prove objectively. So there are continuous indoctrination. Stories in every nation, stories are made about the ancestral origin of the nation, greatness of the nation, incomparable, achievements of the nation. In this case, America is above all. So many Hollywood movies there are which directly or indirectly shows American exceptionalism. Other nations imitate, so we try to show Hindustani cops how they are infallible. These are following Hollywood movies actually. So media, just as print media was then a medium of forging a nationalist consciousness and expanding it, today digital media, cinema, these are also mediums. So Indian, a movie by movie in which Sunny Deol, May Indian Who, that kind of thing. It is true with every nation. Like that, this kind of brotherhood or sisterhood of nation based on nation is tried to be fostered among people. I personally don't see anything bad in this. This is rather good. But there are two flip sides. Here we have to come to Tagore. One is that in any given nation, it cannot be that we practice a kind of Athenian democracy today where citizens directly rule their city. So mostly a group of people. Group may change, but finally it's a minuscule group who rule all the others with its associated hazards, etc., in the name of a nation. Also, there are competing nationalisms. Why Tagore was so much against nations? He wrote, I am not against one nation, but all nations. I am not against one nation in particular, but against all nations. Because nations first limit individual freedom. Though we are given to understand that nations are there to facilitate our maximum freedom, theorists think otherwise. Tagore was not a theorist, but he was in a way grandfather of theory. So he put the same things in simple language which theorists are saying today, that nations in a way are finally detrimental to human freedom, human imagination, the humanness in human. They have a certain program. In a way, we are very free today in India. We do not have that kind of a thing yet. We are mostly in spite of. But think about a nation like, say, China. Programmed nation, programmatic nation, or even that in Russia. Even America is seemingly free, but the freedom of capitalism is a very ambiguous freedom. So, in a certain ways, in India, we have enough abilities because there are many counter discourses at play, many subnationalist groups, many languages, religion, etc. So, I think there can be what Sri Aurobindo calls a play of forces, and within that, we can still maximize our human potentials. Anyway, going back to Benedict Anderson, so this was the thing. I hope you have understood now. Say 99% of Americans or Indians or Afghanistanis or Uzbekistanis for that matter, they are not likely to, uh, sorry, 100% of all these people, they are not going to meet say 99% of the other citizens in their whole lifetime. Imagine we have 140 crore Indians. I think even if we meet 100 people a day, can we match up to that number during our lifetime? No, but in the mind there is an idea that yes, they are all my people, Tamil Nadu or Manipur, etc. So we feel one. So the role of imagination here is tremendous. Now, then there is a kind of, so I think you have understood what is called imagined communities. So nations are not natural, not organic, though all nations try to give impression that they are natural, they are organic, they have been there from antiquities, and almost all nations try to put back their dates of existence. If possible, a nation like America, will try to take their existence back up to the time of dinosaurs, but actually it's not possible. So there is always a kind of discordance between the state machinery's version of the antiquity of nation, sacrosanct thing of nation, and then the real facts. So yes, when Tagore wrote his book on nations, his essays, Benedict Anderson was not there. But today, it has become imperative that in any discussion of nation, you also need to take into cognizance at least Benedict Anderson. There are other people, Ernest Renan from the beginning, then Homi Bhabha, nation and narration. How nations are forced by some kind of narratives. Narratives include all, it's not only literature. So narratives, and there are groups, subgroups. Each of the subgroups within a nation, they have their own narratives. And then another thing which is common to all Benedict Anderson or Homi Bhabha or Salman Rushdie is that one main problem of nation is homogeneity. They want some kind of a homogeneity. They means the state power, nation state power. So there is a try to impose. There was there earlier in India. Now currently I like it that they have included local language in national education policy, etc., etc. But during previous time, this was a problem of previous time. Right now it has been resolved to a great extent. I'm happy to that. For example, Hindi hai hum watan hai, Hindustan hamara. So why? I love Hindi in this way. All languages I love, but there should not be, some kind of imposition in whatever name. So, but anyway, so, but now it has been resolved, I think, greatly by the current national policy of education. You can in future learn your local language, two Indian languages, one national language. I mean, as many languages you learn is good. As a famous writer or a critic and Professor Chinmoy Guha said, it is always advantageous to know more than one language. He used the metaphor of a window. You can walk with a few windows with you. কয়েকটি জানলা নিয়ে হাঁটা যায়. I read in some interview. So you look from French, look from a language also changes perception. So it is good. So, but then nations want some kind of homogeneity. So there should be one language, one kind of ideology, etc., etc. So that Tagore was also against. That is what he meant by limiting human freedom, human imagination. There should be plurality. And then possibly Tagore's most important resistance to nation came from the fact that he was born and brought up in colonial India, and he saw the worst side of colonization. As I said in my previous video, giving up his knighthood, etc., all the fight, Gandhiji, Subhash, and so many I cannot name, but all were there. So, but what is colonialism essentially? If you look at it this way, colonialism is an imposition of one nation on another. So the British as a nation became so powerful by different means that they started dominating other nations. So is not it a flip side of nationalism? Rule Britannia, those kinds of things, the white man's burden. They felt that it was the destiny to rule others and civilize us. So unfortunate. And this has not stopped, as we learned from Said. The colonialism or imperialism that was run by Britain is being continued in a very covert way by America, neocolonialism. Even China, recent COVID and other cases. So you see, one group of people, however large, in the name of the nation or their nation, they always try to dominate and exploit, subjugate other people. But these are not good things, I think. So I think gradually Tagore, in that point of time, that was one difference between him and Gandhi. Was a nationalist, hardcore from beginning to end, though he was not against other nations. But Tagore always, he made it a point, at least later Tagore, that we must become some kind of internationalists. So he named his institution Vishwa Bharati. So Bharati means academics actually, Saraswati or Bharat, but Vishwa first. Vishwa means world. Yatra Vishwang Bhavati Ekam Needam, he said. His definition of Vishwa, need means nest, bird's nest. So where the whole world becomes a single nest. So compare it with the contemporary concept of global village that Tagore was so present. But the problem with the concept of global village is that these are again promoted, motivated, etc. by corporate capitalists who want to maximize profits through globalization. Tagore's thing was not that kind of. He hated this utilitarian kind of approach to life, or what I would call technological Benhamite following leave, is that everything should be used, just like you must have taken cane juice at some point of time on streets of India. The person who keeps pressing them, he keeps, it seems, pressing a single cane stick forever, piece of cane forever, as much as you can need to extract. This is symbolic of, he is a poor person, but symbolically this can be treated as the core symbol of utilitarianism. You are only useful as long as you can provide something, that also which is countable in terms of money, pelf. This crass materialism is very bad. Tagore did not like this. Yes, you should not sit idle. You do creative things, do this, do that, but it should not be, the goal should not be predetermined. Just imagine if Newton could not think in the garden sitting why the apple, fell from the tree, which was then a useless thinking. But this useless thinking led to the discovery of gravity. Aryabhatta may have said it, that is a different issue, I am not going to that. So it is also seen that disinterested intellectual pursuit is the lifeblood of progress and civilization also. If you stop that, if you put today's potential Newtons and Einsteins to do only what brings immediate money, at one point of time, progress will be stopped. China has understood this. USA, so they keep their, hardcore, top level science and other people free from the pressure of immediately delivering things. What is immediately deliverable may not be sustainable. So instant coffee zamana, everything we want instant, but in case of greater realization of the best talents of the human mind and imagination, this instant formula may not work. After all, life cannot be an instant coffee. And thank you. In our next video, we'll discuss the essay proper by Tagore in details.